Hello, my lovelies. I am not sure what happened there, but I think the page froze. So bear with me a second. I'm just going to see whether it has gone live. I'm just going to be checking on here. Because the first one seemed to just freeze up on me. I've not really had that before. So let's just message you all on there, see if it comes up. Please go to second attempt. Sorry for those of you who are watching this on the recording. As last live froze. And now where has that gone to? Oh, good Lord, Facebook, come on, help me out here. Okay, so I can see there's a couple of you on here. Can you let me know that you can see and hear me? Back again, Rob. Excellent, thank you. I'm not sure what happened there. It just see the page seemed to freeze. I couldn't access anything, and I couldn't type anything. I could see that Tiffany was going, no, we can see and hear you, but I couldn't from my side. So apologies for that. Nothing I could do about that other than hit exit and see if I could get back on again. The joys of technology, hey? Fantastic when it works, a wonderful challenge when it doesn't. So without further ado, for those of you who are joining live, again, do as Rob has done, drop down and say hi. And for those of you on the recording, drop down and say hi as well, even though I can't give you a live wave, or this will be the live wave for those of you watching on the recording or listening on the recording. But it's helpful to know who's there, and we can have a conversation. So, yeah. Last week, I picked up on a quote from that I had posted on the page over the summer that had quite a lot of traction from people, either people reposting it, sharing it, or commenting on it, or messaging me about it. And that was all around empathy. And the quote was from, had been sent to me by a client, and so it was from a book. I can't tell you which book it was from. What I do know is the quote was from the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and so this discussion was around that. And from my perspective, the focus was all around blame. And when I was going through the photos over the summer, just to see, you know, what had caused interaction, what had triggered things for people, there were a number of these quotes that had obviously resonated with people, and I thought it would be appropriate to dive a little bit deeper as to why I posted them, and my perception as to what it was that triggered potentially for you, if you were somebody who looked at it. And I've got notes all over this one. So, but this is the quote, hence my constant comments about Jim Carrey, and tonight being about me and Jim Carrey. If you don't know Jim Carrey's journey, it's well worth, well, from my perspective, it's well worth looking at. And he's definitely somebody who, another person, there's a number of them actually, that I started out not really liking very much. I wasn't a great fan of movies like Ace Ventura and The Mask. I could see the, what's the word I'm looking for? The skill and the art of the type of physicality and acting that he was doing, but it just wasn't my thing. So it didn't resonate with me. So I tended to avoid things. And then as time went on, I started to watch more of his, so things like The Truman Show, and name's gone out of my head, but it's the one with Sunshine in the title and Kate Winslet and things like that triggered things. And I started looking into Jim Carrey a lot more and realizing that he was on quite a significant spiritual journey. And I believe that he has spent a lot of time studying with an English teacher actually called Jeff Foster. And a little while back, I started listening to some of his interviews, and you can really see just how much he's changed. And for some people, it's a bit like, oh, who is this person? He's not funny anymore. And I can understand that because he's coming at things in a very different angle. But equally, for me, I find that intriguing. What's gone on there? What's he been looking at? And so when this picture came up with a quote from him, it really intrigued me, and I thought, actually, I have some connection with that and resonance with that myself, both personally but also professionally with clients, and I thought I'd share it with you. So the quote that is under his bearded picture, which, looking at him there, I'm guessing is probably from around about maybe 3-4 years ago. He says, "I believe depression is legitimate, but I also believe that if you don't exercise, eat nutritious food, get sunlight, get enough sleep, consume positive material, surround yourself with support, then you aren't giving yourself a fighting chance." And that's what I wanted to bring to the table this evening. And this isn't to eliminate or go against people who take antidepressants or think that that's something that has helped them, or therapy that's really helped them, or anything at all. It's just that from my perspective, I know that when I have had, I probably wouldn't have classed them as depressive episodes, because I just wouldn't have labeled them that way. And I'm not saying that they weren't, but for me, they were very much what I would class personally as existential crises. And what I mean by that is that they, for those of you that are still watching me live, by the way, can you give me some thumbs up or let me know that you can see and hear me okay? Because I'm watching the numbers fluctuate, and that can quite often mean that there's a bit of a challenge. And I know sometimes the weather can have an impact on the internet connection here at home. But if you can give me some thumbs up or say yes, then that would be very helpful. If not, I'm just going to plow on and trust that it is. And if not, I'm doing this for myself and there'll be no recording of it. Anyway, so my own personal experience, and I've had a number of these episodes, thank you whoever's giving me the thumbs, I couldn't see the icon, but thank you, is that I would have classed them as existential crises. There's lots of thumbs coming in, so thank you. And for me, the reason I would label it as that is I was going through a deep questioning of what is the point of life, but not in a suicidal way. I did that years ago, not necessarily where I've been when I've experienced this in the last few years, but it's where I have experienced some very dark times. Some people refer to it as dark nights of the soul. And I think often that they can be, I'm not saying they always are, but they can be quite different experiences to what people I know who have been diagnosed as clinically depressed will refer to as the black dog. People like Matt Haig has popped into my head in his descriptions around that. So for me, those things, why this quote resonated with me is that I know that the things, it didn't help me come out of that, you know, if I immediately went into exercising or eating nutritional food or only consuming positive material or surrounding myself with supportive people, I didn't snap out of it like that. But it was the last line that really triggered it for me, which is about you're not giving yourself a fighting chance. And I recognized a few years ago that I was in one of these existential crises places. And I noticed that I was isolating myself. So especially at weekends, it's kind of like I would come home regardless of the time of year and whether it was warm, cold, hot, sunny, whatever. I would come home and it was kind of like I'd cocoon myself in. And if anyone messaged me or over the weekend, I would be quite monosyllabic with my answers or ignore them. If the phone rang, I'd probably ignore it and pick up the answer message, see what they said, and then probably make an excuse. So the support that potentially was there, I was retracting from. I wasn't asking for it. I wasn't giving myself that opportunity. I also know that I would be on the sofa, and what I thought my body was craving was comfort food. So I'd start eating really crap food. And so I'm not moving my body, I'm not being supportive to myself, I'm not seeking external support, and then I'm just watching movies. And even though they may be, for example, rom-coms, actually they're not great movies, rom-coms. If you really look at them, it's the same. I'm not even going to go into that. They are not great movies because they feed this, excuse my language, but bullshit Hollywood fairy tale love story, which I do not buy into, but that's another conversation. So I know that for me personally, no matter how challenging it is, I need to recognize that what's important is to do little things. So even if I didn't want to go out and exercise, I've got DVDs at home that I can do. Obviously, YouTube offers a gamut of different workouts you can do. But for me, it's not just about exercising, it's about moving your body. So I have got a number of different playlists that I would put on, and I would just start moving my body. So I'd basically dance in my kitchen because I've got this wonderful open space in my kitchen, and I'd just dance. And whether that was really slowly, or whether it was manically, whether it was angry, or whether I was sat on the floor just doing arm movements, it didn't matter. It was, the encouragement wasn't around exercise, it was about movement. Let's get myself moving. And sometimes that would be for 2-3 minutes. Sometimes it would be for 20-30 minutes. And I would give myself permission to have one bit of comfort food a day, but the rest had to be nutritional. So I would make a decision, okay, well, where's that going to be? And what I've noticed is because I've given myself the permission, actually I started making healthier choices. And it didn't mean that I was, a salad queen and never had chips or anything like that. But it did mean that I was going, okay, well, if I want to help myself right now, what's the most nutritional thing I could be eating? And very slowly, I started to communicate a bit more with other people, and inviting them in. And, the people that I trusted, that I've known for a long time, I started to open up to. So that's why that quote really resonated for me, because it's something that I know that I've put into practice. And I've also broken this down with clients, regardless of whether they are or aren't on antidepressants, or whether they have or haven't been diagnosed as clinically depressed. I think very often we've been conditioned, I think, to look for a quick solution. We've been taught to fast track everything. And sometimes I think it's important to recognize that we need to go through those dark times in order to find the growth, the learning, the evolution through it, to come through the other side. As my coach has said on a number of times to me, people want to get to heaven, but they're not prepared to walk through the swamp of hell to get there. And I know when I've been in those dark places that it's been really flipping hard to stay there, because I've wanted to get out, and I've wanted to wallow it, which is not in a helpful way. And I was actually talking, and this came up I love how this happens nearly every single week. I was talking with a colleague in the States today, and this came up in conversation about how we've distanced ourselves from the lesson and the personal growth, spiritual growth, if you want to look at it in that way, that these dark times can provide us with. And when we can, as Jim Carrey says, give yourself a fighting chance by consuming positive material or resourceful material. I maybe step away from looking at positive and negative, but look at resourceful. I always think about, consumption isn't just about what we put in our mouths, the drink and the food. It's about what we put in our art, what goes into eyes. It's what goes into our ears, what we touch, we're consuming there. But it's also the thoughts that we have, and we need to be mindful of that. What am I, the consumption, what I am consuming, how is what I'm consuming right now impacting me? Does that make sense? Rob says, I make excuses to people so I don't have to go to things or events. I struggle in large groups of people, so we'll do anything and everything to get out of them. So, Rob, I think in those situations, I think what we have to be mindful of as well is, I think sometimes catapulting ourselves from one extreme to the other may not be helpful. So it might be about explaining to those people around you Subsequently especially over the last 6 to 8 months or so, I've really chatted a lot more to my friends, to certain friends who I know will get things, and they now know to ask certain questions. So if they notice my behavior changing in any way, shape or form, and I can now openly say, I'm going through an existential moment, or this is a really tough time, and they're like, okay, so how can I best help you? It's a simple question. And it might be that whereas before I'd have just gone, it's fine, I can deal with this, I don't need any help. How arrogant is that? Now I do sit and think about it, and sometimes I might reply, I have no idea at this moment in time, but I will ask if I think of something. And I've had friends turn up with food, with flowers, with a hug, take me out for a cup of tea, various things like that. That just that minuscule interaction. So it might be a case, Rob, of sharing with other people. You don't need to have a whole bunch, but share with those other people, 2, 3 people, so that rather than retracting yourself from those big events, is just say, I'm not yet in the space to be able to go to that big event, but could we do something smaller, so that you're saying yes to doing something, but that big event might have too many people. So what could we do together that's maybe slightly out of that comfort zone a little bit, but where you feel where you perceive that it's going to stretch you and you will be supported. Does that make sense, Rob? Let me know if it does. I know you've got another comment here. I get through life by cleaning. It keeps my mind busy and occupied. I spend much of my weekend cleaning as it gives me some sense of accomplishment. It sounds really bad, doesn't it? It's avoidance. So some of the things that what I would encourage you to do, if you know you are somebody that experiences, whether you label it as depression or dark times or dark night of the soul or black dog or whatever it is, and existential crisis, whatever you label it as, is be very mindful. Hi, Caroline. Be very mindful of the behaviors that you do. So to me, cleaning is, it's a displacement activity. The other than getting a clean house at the end of it, which is a great thing, the other benefit of that is it is helping you move your body. So it does have a benefit, but what I maybe encourage you to do is do something like, okay, well, I'm going to clean between, and only give yourself a period of time, and then look to do something else. So it might be that you look at, so I know for me, something that helps me is because I live on my own, I can have busy life and being in various places, I batch cook. So that when I come in from work, sometimes I just open my freezer and go, right, what have I got? What would I like to have this evening? And it might be a case of, okay, well, I'm not going to clean all day, but I'm going to create that nutritional food. And one of the recipe books that I've flagged up before is the Fuel book. I'm not going to go and grab it now because I know that time is running out. But I'm sure, except I can't spell because I'm talking. And it's not letting me tag you, Gareth. I hope you get to see this at some point. But Fuel by the Bouncing Chef is a really great book full of recipes, batch cooks. Deliciously Ella is another one. Honestly Healthy is another one. The thing I love about Fuel is that it's got fish and meat dishes in there as well. So if you're somebody who does eat eclectically, then it's not that you have to go veggie. But, excuse me, it gives you the opportunity to look at food in a different way. And if you look at Gareth's backstory and his business partner and best friend, Jerome, that they have a backstory of, they've both had experiences of drugs and really tough times. Very similar story to myself, only Gareth's has been his constant challenge, even to this day. And I know he speaks openly about it, so I'm not speaking out of turn about a friend, but he has mental health challenges. He's run the London Marathon for it, all sorts of things. So the Fuel cookbook, which I'm not on commission for, is filled with foods that help your mental state as well. And they've definitely made a difference to me. Last year I had a very dark time, mainly because I had an operation where I had to have morphine, and the come down from that was really dark and not pleasant place to be in at all. So because Gareth is a great friend of mine, so I messaged Gareth and said, what would you recommend? Are there any recipes in the book that you think? So I knew immediately that something that I could do for myself, whilst I didn't have a huge amount of energy, because I didn't physically feel great, I knew I could get nutrition in to help. I also, at that point, sent messages out to my friends going, your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to send me videos that are going to make me laugh. So I invited that, as Jim Carrey calls it, the consumption of positive material. So I was helping myself. And I think to me, this is why I love this quote, is because I'm just going to read it again for those of you who haven't seen it. You can go on, if you go onto the photos on the page, you'll be able to scroll down and find Jim, my mate Jim, and read this for yourself, grab it, share it, whatever. But the quote that I put up was, I believe depression is legitimate, but I also believe that if you don't exercise, eat nutritious food, get sunlight, get enough sleep, consume positive materials, surround yourself with support, then you aren't giving yourself a fighting chance. And it's that last bit of recognizing that you aren't helping yourself. And as you'll know, I think one of the strong themes that have been coming out at the moment, and mainly because it's a very strong theme in my life, is about we need to, it's so important, and I need to be careful because of time, and I want to go off on a rant, and I'm not going to, but we need to be very careful about disempowering ourselves and giving our healing process to someone else, whoever that someone else is, whether it is someone in the medical profession or whether it is somebody, a family member, friend, partner, whatever it may be. They may play a part, but we also need to look at how are we giving ourselves a fighting chance. You know, if we're retracting, if we're ignoring people's offers of help, if we aren't eating in a way that supports our body. And I actually don't believe that there is one diet that everyone should do. I don't believe in that. We need to learn what's right for our own personal bodies, because every body is different. And the only way that you're going to do that is by experimenting and noticing. Doing a food diary is great for this. A mood diary. Notice what your experience is about anything between 20 and 40 minutes after you've consumed food. You know, do you peak? Do you plateau? Do you trough? What happens? And then what cravings come from that? Because that's going to give you a clear indication of what the food that you've just consumed impact may have on you. So be mindful of that. And I know that Jim says about exercise. I personally had a twitchy revulsion to that word because I hated exercise as a kid. I didn't have a great time. I didn't really grow up in a household that did exercise. Nobody did exercise in any way, shape or form other than my mum, because she didn't drive. She does walk a lot even to this day. But we didn't really exercise. We didn't go out walking as a kid. We didn't as kids or as a family. So the only exercise was at school, and at primary school, it was fun. It was joyous because we were just playing, and it was described as playing. But the moment you went to secondary school, or for me anyway, it became a PE lesson. And going through puberty, I went through puberty at 9. So by the time I hit secondary school, I was already bored of those conversations. But I was also very much taller than everybody in my year. I had boobs, which meant I had a bra, which meant I got picked on. I had periods, which meant I got picked on, which meant wearing a gym slip and big pants was just not fun in any way, shape or form. So for me, PE and exercise was a no, thanks very much. That's just hideous. My big shift happened probably about 10, 15 years ago when I stopped seeing it as exercise and I saw it as moving my body. And you'll know if you've listened to a number of my videos, and like I mentioned a little bit ago, that one of the things I will do is I'll put music on, because for me, one of the things this body absolutely loves to do is dance. And I don't mean in a balletic, hip hop, funky kind of way. I just mean I like to dance. You know, you'll notice if you're ever with me and a good tune comes on, my head will go, or my shoulders will go, or I'll just start grooving on, because I just can't sit still. If it's a tune that I love and it gets me, it's like something starts. So to me, it's about moving my body and finding ways to move my body that excite me, that light me up. And dancing may not be your thing. It may be walking, cycling, swimming. You may be a gym bunny. You may love exercise and routines and, I don't know, martial arts or whatever. There is no one thing, but find the way, again, that your body likes to move so that you can help yourself. And even if you only do 3 to 5 minutes of that, then help yourself by doing it. So, are you aware, by the way, I've been talking for 25 minutes, and this is extremely unusual for me, that not talking for 25 minutes, I can do that. I haven't even paused. It's that passionate I get about this. I haven't even paused for a drink. So, what do you think about the conversation with Jim? It's been a bit one-sided, I know, that he hasn't had the opportunity to elaborate. I haven't had the opportunity to ask him questions, but if there's anybody out there that knows Jim, that I could get a live interview with him, then that would be fantastic. Hey, stranger things have happened. But I do think that I'm not negating the value or the importance or the requirement for some people of medication. And I would never advise. I've had a number of clients who have come to me on antidepressants, and they've said, should I come off my antidepressants? And I'm like, go see your GP. Talk to them. You know, I'm not a medical practitioner. I would never advise that. What I would advise is start putting some of these, if you think about it, you know, none of these cost any money. I mean, you're eating food anyway, but none of the other stuff costs any money at all. You know, you can move your body in any way, shape or form. That's free. As I say, you're going to eat food, so why not eat nutritious food? And I don't know whether you live in a city, but I certainly live in a city where there are various, they call it, obviously because I live in York, they call it edible York. And there are these flower beds, that's the word I was looking for, that have food in them that people can go and grab, whether it's herbs or whether it's courgettes, tomatoes, whatever it may be. So, you know, there's also other ways that you can start to add things in. Getting sunlight is free. I recognise in the UK at this time of year and when the weather changes, that becomes a challenge. But if it's something that is really a challenge for you, then look at things, could you get one of those SAD lamps, which I've never used personally, but I've heard good recommendations about. The thing that works for me personally, I've mentioned it before, I've got one of those alarm clocks that you set that the light slowly starts coming on over 15 minutes before your alarm. And I find that when it gets darker in the mornings, that really helps me wake up in a far more natural way than a jolt with an alarm. So that's a kind of morning bit of sunshine. But it may be worth going and talking to your GP about taking a supplement like vitamin D, for example, because that might help. Ask your GP about it. Do they have a particular one that they'd recommend? You can get it in pretty much most good health food shops. So that might be something that might be helpful as well. Obviously, if you're going to buy a supplement, that costs money, but natural sunlight doesn't. Getting enough sleep doesn't cost money. Obviously, if you've got young children in particular, or a poorly child, or you're taking care of somebody who needs attention at various points, I recognise that can be a challenge. But, you know, I've shared this a number of times, and I realise that this is going to be a long video, but I think this is important to go through and share. But I've shared with this before. I will put it on here. I think I mentioned this last time. There's an app, except I can't spell because I'm talking at the same time. There is an app called Insight Timer, and it's free. And there are, I came home from work today, and actually I was really quite tired. So I knew I needed to do something to help my energy ready for this evening's Facebook Live. So I know that on there is a power nap, which is about 28-ish minutes. So I knew I had plenty of time. So I went and got into bed and did the power nap, set my alarm just in case I snooze right through it the other side. It's very rare that I do. But I was making sure that I was helping my energy in the best way that I can. And I will go to bed at a reasonable time this evening, again, to help myself. Consuming positive material, you know, go through your social media. If you are seeing stuff, you know, if I'm going through my social media and there's things on there, I don't unfollow people or unfriend people just because I disagree with what they're saying. It's more if their content is, how can I describe this? Do you know, I'm going to have to think about that, because I need to think about how I make that call. But it's more if it's aggressive or defensive, or there's no openness to the opinion, regardless of which side of the fence the opinion sits. It's whether there is any openness or not. So that's something that's important to me, and I will do that. And I was the same as, you know, if I've subscribed to a newsletter and something comes up and I'm thinking, do you know what, that's just not for me, I'll unsubscribe. So be aware of that for yourself. And again, going back to what we've spoken about with regard, there's lots of thumbs up going up at various points. I can't see who it is, but thank you. And I'm assuming it's because this is making sense and resonating. But I've spoken about asking for help. Isolating yourself never helps. You know, there's so much research out there around even addiction, and addiction can come from disconnection. And people, excuse me, we delude ourselves that we think we're connecting with other people through social media. Oh, you know, I had a nice chat with Jules on social media this evening. But actually, that's not a true connection. True connection is go and grab a coffee with somebody, or go and take them for a cup of tea, or just go for a short walk with somebody. Or, you know, one of the things that I noticed that one of my clients did that I thought was amazing, and just a subtle difference, was he realized that he was isolating himself at work, and there were 2 ways into his office, and he decided, because he just wanted to get his head down and avoid people, he was taking the short route. And in our very first coaching session, he had the light bulb moment of going, there's another route in, which meant I could walk past people and actually connect with them. I wonder what would happen if I did that. And I said, well, let's see. Why don't you do that as a little challenge for yourself and see what happens? He loves it and cannot believe the difference of such a small thing has made. You know, even if it is a morning, hi, doesn't mean there's a deep and meaningful going on for a long time conversation, but it does mean that there's interaction, there's connection, and we do require that as human beings. So make sure you're doing that. You know, the next best thing is have a phone call with somebody or a video call, because it's still not the same as being in person, but at least have a conversation. Text doesn't do it in the same way. Direct messaging, all of that doesn't do it in the same way. So take the time to do that. And make sure that you're asking people for support, but asking the right people. So whether that is somebody that's only water, by the way, that I'm drinking, a professional capacity is what I was trying to say, or whether that is in a friend capacity, family capacity, whatever it is make sure that you're getting support from the right people, and be clear with what you need. Even if it is, at the moment, I don't know really what I need other than to know that you're there. And then let them know what that would mean. So is it just a check-in once a day, a quick phone call? You know, are you around for a quick phone call? Or I can pop by for a cup of tea. What would be the right thing for you? So I am going to take a breath. I am assuming by all the thumbs up that keep going, I cannot see who's been doing those. That I'm assuming that it's making sense, that it's resonating with you. If this genuinely resonates with you, and you know that you have got people within your circle of friends or work colleagues that this would benefit, then help them by sharing this video. I know Rob said on the first one that I did before I got so rudely cut off by Facebook, that share this with them, share it with people, share it in groups. Let people know, even if you don't want to share the whole video, you know, copy this out of the photos and share that. Can I shake it a little bit more and make it more illegible for you? You know, or if you have bought Gareth's cookbook, share that. Again, I'm not on commission. I just really do back what him and Jerome are doing over in their retreat in Spain. And this all does go for those of you on the lives, on the recordings. You know, let me know what you think. Let me know. And if doing all of those things is too much for you in one go, just pick one thing a week and go, do you know what, this week my one thing is I'm gonna move my body for 5 minutes every day. And choose 7 different ways of moving your body and see which way you like the best by the end of the week. Or I am going to do, you know, 7 different meals that are nutritious. It is water, I promise you. I don't drink alcohol. Is nutritious, and don't give yourself a hard time the rest of the time. Or it may be about I'm going to go to bed 5 minutes earlier, or get up 5 minutes earlier, or there's so many subtle ways that you can do it to help yourself. So I genuinely hope that this evening is giving you different ways to start looking at those dark times. And I do want to reiterate, those of you who have made it all the way to this point, listening to me, I'm very aware that this is a long video, but as I said, the conversation that I had this afternoon with my colleague in America really resonated with me, and it's something I very much agree with, that we do need to recognize that rather than trying to avoid these tough times, these dark times, which are uncomfortable, they are uncertain, is use these steps that Jim has my mate Jim has so wonderfully laid out, and also recognize that this is not potentially going to be forever, and that by working your way through it, you can potentially see lessons on the other side. I know even for myself, every time I've seen those lessons, that's when I have the opportunity to learn. That's when I have the opportunity to grow. If I continue to avoid it by covering it with food, laying on the sofa, watching crappy TV, whatever it may be, it's not going to help me. It's just not going to help me. Somebody's sending loads of hearts. I can't see who it is, but thank you very much. And I really do hope that you've taken this to heart and that this has resonated with you, that you will share it, because you never know who this information may touch, plant a seed with, that just starts them on a slightly different journey that could help them in the longer term. None of this, I don't think, is an overnight fix. We are human beings that are a work in progress. We're not finished. Every single one of us is a work in progress. So the more that we can recognize that and give ourselves a break, then I think that that's going to help us in the longer term as well. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. Thank you for being with me this evening and jumping back on when the first video for some reason stopped. And I wish you a week of insights. And I look forward to catching up with you next Monday. In the meantime, in a world where you can be anything, why not be kind? Take care. See you later.